Greetings, everyone. Welcome to this light code, light language transmission. And while that is the topic of light code, light language, the sheer essence of our being, code, all of us, whether we know it or not, like coded, we're all very specifically coded. This entire conversation and all others for that matter are code, they're light code. So thank you for tuning into this very imperative transmission and exchange at this time, which is infinite of the potentiality of the experience. And we're going to share some images of light code, written code. I have explorations of sound, tone, frequency, energy, go through some explanations and undulations of what is that, how does that function here in this reality, and also all the multidimensionality in between, as well as the other modalities of light code, which come through writing. And if you've seen my videos or know me personally from working together, I utilize my hands and I work through all the layers at once. So I'm, working with my hands, with the tones, with the sounds, with the light, through all the layers, and each assistance modality in addition to each other layered, say the layers of the tones, the sounds, the light, and the code amplifies each other. So many of the videos, if you've experienced the videos, I'd imagine if you're on the channel, you have to some degree. And the videos are layers and layers and layers upon each other in each video. So visually, energetically, sensorially, geometrically, through the sound to tone, there's geometric templates, light code, intentionality, which each, line of code is massive sequences of information. And much of it isn't, well, I mean, typically it's not translated to word because it's not an alphabet, but through sensing, through the soul, through the heart, through the intuition, there's an inner knowing from the individual, or even perhaps from the land, for example, if it's utilized singing, toning in temples, in creation of a building, dowsing, working with land and clearing, or, clearing the space, clearing buildings, setting a space, all of that code through sound and tone is shifting, lifting, transforming, changing, clearing, expanding, setting, even setting templates in place, releasing, outdated, defunct ones, dissolved ones, perhaps residuals, imprintations, etc. It's code is multi-layerly, multifacetedly existing and functioning in ways that the mind really can't comprehend. And we've already, quite frankly, superseded, meaning went far beyond already to this particular point where we are, May 2025, of where many had thought humanity would be, or would have the potentiality to, you want to say, proverbial go. So the infinitesimal capacity and ability we're at in this juncture point is massive. So I'm here with you to share the massivity, if that's a word, of light code and light language, and how it can transform, transfigure, configure, reconfigure, and through now new earth architecture, implementation, anchoring, and setting, you want to say, architecting, bridging, anchoring off-planet technologies through and to this new earth that's evolving and now able, ready, and you want to say willing, but able to co-create and collaborate the implementation and the architectures for these new structures to build and bridge as the purity And the frequencies are finally now able to sustain these interconnectivities and also bridge, open, and be clear enough as it's still continuously opening more each moment, but clear enough to where all of the other civilizations, far and wide, of our brothers and sisters in space through different galaxies and dimensional octaves can arrive to co-create, to meet, collaborate, to unify, and really come together to create what has never been done before. And the vastness of that, you want to say what's to come, is so huge that it's important to remain open, which is why a big point in why I'm bringing this to light, so to speak, light code, light languages, because my perspective, my understanding of that and many other things are actually much different than I've heard discussed before. So it's long overdue time of no time and a space to discuss this from a unique perspective, because it always widens the gaze. So again, welcome to this transmission. We're going to dive and weave into that which I just discussed. I have some examples here. If the Zoom background will cooperate with showing, of course. Then we have an example behind. But what are light codes? I mean, what are they exactly? Everything is code, right? So, and we're deeply encoded beings. So every cell has a code, DNA has a code, and even that can be, overwritten, rewritten differently. And it's not so-called written in stone, written in stone. I mean, some code is written in stone, right? But DNA, for example, or a blueprint, even the one that cannot be or has been known as not being able to be changed as its original design, that can actually be upgraded, shifted, and changed because we're already superseding what we thought would be. So that means many of these missions that each individual was coming with, or is coming with, has come with, are transforming now, right? They're what they thought they would be doing is needing to be expanded because everything is accelerating so swiftly, right? So, conscious intelligence, light. Conscious intelligence is light code, and it comes again through a multitude of ways, through writing, through sound, through toning, and we can clear, the intentionality, they say the tone of the sound even. If I made a sound, I think I'm gonna have to change the function, or Zoom will blurb it out. But if I made a sound now without changing the setting, you might not catch it. But the sound, if I made it in one way, right? Elongated, right? If you can catch that with the Zoom, the Zoom sound. But that sound and then intention, you see what my hands were doing there with the light language and tone and code, that's assisting that to amplify that intention and elongate. Say if I'm opening, as that sound was, to open, move, open, move, shift, open, move, shift, all these different things at once. Adding the hand movements, move the energy faster, faster, faster. So fast these codes are because there's so much information. One brief example, but through sound, through tone, whether in a temple, sacred temple, in a garden, in, walking on your land, walking, in the earth, walking in the store, even anywhere you are, that hum, that tone, that intentionality is shifting I mean, has a potentiality, right? The more conscious and present you are with that, you are really consistently and multidimensionally, potentially. The hope is changing, shifting, transforming, lifting, transfiguring energy. And I, as a side note, go through my whole day humming and toning. And to me, that's harmonizing energy. And I'm still doing a lot of other things too, but it's harmonizing energy, through the density. And it's, collaborating and co-creating with, say, the etheric, realms, all, bringing the energy in, it's anchoring, it's transmitting it back, what's occurring in this specific location, code, code, code. It's receiving, transmitting, anchoring, shifting, clearing in a multitude of strings. But I had learned that actually, or remembered really, but very young when I was probably, I guess what would be considered an infant, under that under that age, small, where I was making sounds and tones with my mouth, and I could see the energy change. And I could see how if I would use my hands or I would start to draw on different layers, because I was drawing since I can recall. I would draw with the different layers and I would watch it change and transform energy. And as it was doing that, I would make the sound and it would amplify what that geometry was doing. And then if I'd make a different sound, or that same sound even more elongated, I was like, oh, wow, look what that does to the energy, and I could see how, the wave would change, the energy wave, the sound wave would transform. And at the time, as a small infant, the density was very thick, right? It's much different than how it is now, even though it's still, it's still clearing out now, but it's much thicker then. So I would tone and sound because it was hard. I could feel that was making my environment feel better to me. That's how, you're little, that's how you describe it, right? But, not with technical terms. And but I would tone and I would hum. And as I would hum, I would feel the energy harmonize, balance, be more peaceful and calm, and like I feel like it was opening, it was dissolving some of the things. I was like, well, what is that? But because it was earth at that time, right? So there's a lot of distortions and still now clearing out. So my point in that is that through those um remembrances and experimentation at a younger, human age, I guess you want to say, was realizing that I already knew what I came to do in those ways had to do with frequency, sound, intentionality, tone. And I was experiencing all the time the ramifications of creating sounds and transforming energy. So, yes, it amplifies and is magnified in, say, temples that are built specific structures, pyramids, on very precise lines and geometries, geometrics and ley lines, and lines that line up to the stars and star systems, planetary systems, you know, different celestial bodies, and beyond, 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 amplifies, right? If you're singing, toning, offering intentionality, light coding, harmonizing within a temple, or if you're building, as we are going to be, are now, creating these new structures, starting from the base all the way down to the base where we're clearing everything out now because we're dissolving everything away that does not serve, isn't true, is out of harmony with the divine law, right? Which means that simultaneously we are all creating and co-creating new worlds from the very base, where we're creating new structures, new housing, you want to say types of housing, geometric, aligned, aligned with proper ley lines, proper sacred geometric lines, also aligned with, the new, I say new grid lines where the energies are shifting, the earth is moving, land is transfiguring, land masses are receding, rising, shifting, lifting, reconfiguring. And with that's codes. That's releasing codes as the land's moving. It's releasing codes, it's anchoring new codes in, it's releasing out, as land is sifting, lifting, reconfiguring, earthquaking. It's releasing out embedded codes, encrypted codes, many of which were, you want to say hidden, but were put somewhere, written, encrypted, carved, glyphs, hieroglyphs, scrolls, in ancient artifacts, code, engraved on buildings, into sacred geometries, in buildings, in grounds, you want to say crop circles, things of that nature, the way mounds are laid out. All of those things are codes, and as the land, the energy, the earth is shifting, it's lifting these codes, right? And whatever the intentionality is, slash was, were, is reconfiguring to either make space for new energy, new structures to be built and in alignment now, right? Because a lot of these places or cities, structures that were built, towns that were built that say perhaps are very discordant, or have different layers of distortion, discordance, even when I say crime, is a disruptive frequency alignment of how it was originally laid out geometrically, and perhaps not in harmony with the rest of the alignment of the earth. Like some of these areas don't belong to have buildings, right? Or not quite that way, or not those alignments. Or we look at topics like dowsing, you have to line up every layer and facet in proper energetic rotation. And we're in bodies right now, whatever extent they are completely activated, and to what ways, meaning what codes are we carrying, what did we come into anchor, do our missions, etc. Our pure breath by being here is encoded. So that is occurring, and being in a body is part of this off-planet technology. Many people are speaking about off-planet technology, right? And that's here and implementing and anchoring in through various modalities, various ways, various beings coming together, whether collaborating with, different beings on Earth that are here now, through different galactic civilizations of planet technology, very evolved, bringing that through. That's one way, or some ways. That's some of the ways, right? But in addition to that, being in a body, how your vessel is tuned and toned every moment, you are the off-planet technology. Because many of us, I mean, really all of us, to whatever extent we're aware, right? We are from, you want to say from some other, dimensional plane, planet, star system, constellation. There's um, beings here now, souls here now from all over, all over, and each unique coding an informational, vast living library of sequences, DNA, awareness, knowledge, wisdom, where they've been, what they know, who they've worked with, what they came to do. Code. It's all code, right? It's like, how are you going to perceive it? But really, whether they're aware of it or not, and to what extent is that bridging off planet technology from whatever civilizations anyone's ever been on to, say star system missions, whether aware or not, bridging, anchoring, connecting nodes, information, lineups, sequences, like this is all unfolding in every moment multidimensionally, whether we realize it or not. But as we're realizing that we are so uniquely and divinely encoded with light intelligence, and conscious light intelligence utilization is bridging and anchoring the coding and the language in whatever modality, multidimensionality that we are in every moment, because everywhere we are right here, conversing, experiencing, exchanging is really that. And we don't necessarily need to hyper fixate and say, oh, we're having a coded discussion right now. But really, what is occurring is that, right? It really is that complex yet intricate, where these are sequences and packets of information. Each code, each line of code is a packet of intention, energy, frequency, information. It has a function. It has an intention slash function, right? And what it's doing through the layers really depends on what is that, what was its intention, what created it, where even certain areas might spring certain coding about. And the hope is those that are writing, when I say writing, speaking, toning, code, have conscious awareness of what it is that they're doing, because, for example, making the sounds and tones intentionally, consciously utilizing what it is, even in the coding of the breath, right? Geometrics, massive geometric sequence and codes in the breath, in the thought, I mean, if I see it that way, that's how I see it. But really, that breath, every in breath and every out breath in your energy field is coded. It's coded. It's coded. So becoming conscious and aware of what are we communicating? How are we bridging? How are we anchoring? How are we architecting? Because we really are all here in some fashion, that are here now and arriving, architecting our new world. We're weaving it, we're bridging it, we're anchoring it. And our tools aren't just, which just is a big word, right? But aren't just what we've researched, learned, and the wisdom that we come with from all these other experiences we've had on other, planes, times, timelines, planets, etc. But it's what are we going to do with that? And the differential to know that even our blueprint, our divine blueprint can be rewritten, can be changed, can be upgraded, because we've surpassed by now even this 2025, linearly surpassed what we thought, even out into the vast abyss, other beings, other civilizations. The absolute magnitude of the ripple of everyone's expansions have rippled into the whole, on a whole nother infinitesimal potentiality of what can be created, right? So how do they function? We'll get back to that. How do light codes function? Like, what are they doing besides the anchoring, right? They're anchoring, they're opening, they're clearing. That tonality, even, of toning that code is functioning through frequency, right? Because we're that energy, frequency, vibration. Like, that's really in its simplest, basic, simplest what is. is that frequency. So how the codes and pure intentions are reverberating, because once something's said, thought, done, it doesn't stop. It's ever continuous through all the layers of whatever the thought was, whatever's coming through. Say it's a sound, it's a tone, it's a harmony, it's a, it's an intentionality for a specific purpose. How is that being bridged, anchored, coming through, being downloaded geometrically, and otherwise, sometimes isn't always known about, right? So if we look at like the brain for a huge example of coding and upgrading, and the ability for the brain to drive the encoded ship per se of our body, our vessel, but also into these other missions that say bilocation, interdimensional travel, tuning our light and our light ship a very specific way that our rotation, our energetic frequency, and our bodies are harmonized in a way where whatever it is can be instantaneously done, and it's done and you're on to the next. Um, it's literally having the was a counter rotating field, but having your uh, energetic fields rotating in a way that they are innately, naturally harmonizing themselves, harmonizing the environment, harmonizing where you are. And through that instantaneous thought, of whatever it is that needs to be done instantaneously is that, right? So having that harmonized vessel, unified vessel, grounded, centered, unwavered, encoded off-planet technology of your body, your light body, your multidimensionality, all in, when I say intact, but all unified, then there becomes whatever that instantaneous intention packet, encoded sequence, whatever is for the highest good of all to be created and connected, or needing to connect to a certain, say there's people, places, things for the next expanse of the mission, what needs to come together, it innately does so through the magnetics of the energy, right? Through the intentionality. I mean, it's out there, right? It's thought, it's done, it's out there, it's in the field. Everything, everyone that needs to come together to come into the completeness of that, which um, is so. For me, there is a very high interconnectivity, you could say, to the interconnectivity of bringing, bridging, and anchoring the other realms through the weaving and the anchoring, and even downloading the different uh, informational sequences, packets, geometrics into this vastly evolving new earth. And the imperative nature of coming to realize that everything is code is that it becomes a conscious co-creation, especially at the simplicity of breath. How, and we could do an example actually, how the breath is very geometrically harmonized when unified and grounded into one's pillar, and how that permeation really does undulate intentionality and geometry through the sine waves of existence. So let's take a moment actually as an example. I had a meditation on the channel for a while. It's called the Geometrics of Breath, and it was actually tuning into the harmonics of the breath and the geometrics and centering within that, but it's through the breath, even in a very centered focus, can really feel the geometric undulation. And even it, how encoded the movement. You utilize your hands to feel your breath. When you feel your breath, move it with your hands to amplify, to far outreach, to stretch the energy and to elongate it. Very simple practice. There's no right way. We're just exploring it very simply right now, but just breathe. When you breathe, utilize your hands to elongate it perhaps, or even elongate your opening of your throat. Feel the movement. And you can kind of play with the energy you feel move through your cells as you breathe. Feel the space. As you breathe out, push the breath. Elongate the release. Feel the geometry in your body. As you feel the fluidity, begin to realize how pliable, how expansive, how powerful, how everything how every moment is coated with potentiality. How in an instant everything, everywhere can be transformed through intention, through geometry, through the light encoded, massive potentiality, light, conscious intelligence. Now just think, this feels like this right here, right? Feeling that transformation of the breath. In this instant right here, right? Now think, what? Wow. Think of the wow and the what of what that is doing everywhere else you are. Huge. Everything is code. And like I was saying in the beginning, no need to hyperfixate on that. Um, it's not even a conceptualization. It is. It is that. It widens the potentiality of awareness. Like, what is this? What are we as conscious, present light beings, light coded beings? Our innate presence and breath is doing it's doing that geometry. It's reconfiguring and architecting reality, right? In every moment. So being present, unified, merged, conscious, aware. More so, every moment is doing that even more so because we are that vastly encoded with sequences, libraries, information, cells, and our cells are changing, right? So our brain is changing, our cells are changing, our bodies are massively changing because they need to, they have to be upgraded because you look at the counter rotation of the field is innately designed to and returning to being its own self-harmonizing, self-functioning, self-correcting, anchoring, illuminating vehicle of travel. There's no thoughts to think about that, right? There's no energy necessary to think about harmonizing the body and harmonizing all these facets once and as it becomes illumined and unified because it'll innately be in the right oscillation field for whatever that moment is. So that frequency that you're emitting, your field, your light, your encoded sequences, wherever you need to go, real or perceived, a place, actual, out in space, by location, leaving your body here, going somewhere else, taking it with you, etc. Different missions, instantaneous, there, now, here, um, can become so without expending all this energy, right? Because a lot of these experiences through the densities have been expending a lot of energy, and especially for the body holding all these different discordant frequencies, it's been expending a lot of energy. And even these last probably linearly 5 years or so, has been this like huge purgification cycle of purging a lot of these accumulations from other lives, times, parallel lifetimes, and other, just having experiences through those, right? So primarily too, required and needing to restoration through our reclamation and unification, because that restoration is purifying, it's returning to pure state, but it's also increasing the velocity so that we may instantaneously do these say missions, etc., because there's so much to do in our being. There's so many things like in this base beginning point that we are yet to even get to, and a lot of our galactic families are arriving now and upcoming very soon. So it's getting to that readiness, getting our bodies to that readiness, our bodies, our fields, our harmonics unified and clearing out, basically clearing out that which is not in our true nature so that our innate soul expressions are unique, divine coding can shine through, illuminate, and not just beyond, or actually, excuse me, beyond, going beyond what we thought perhaps we came to do. It's evolving much swifter than that, so it'll be much more expansive even than what I'm perceivably of whatever was dreamed to be. So turning up expressions on certain different genes and DNA. I work a lot with the DNA and the cellular structures and multidimensionally when I'm working with an individual. So it's through all the different layers of a being and all the coding, its original coding, design, and also what's being requested for example, say it's an individual soul, of that soul in their next expanse, in their next now, through all the layers and activating and opening. But I'm really feeling the difference, the vast difference of whatever DNA was thought to be, even cellular structures, cells, body and the body, like all of these scientific. And if you're a scientist, don't send me any, don't send me any mail about this. My perceptions are different. They just are. So, but science is so limited. It's so limited on what it knows or has written somewhere and thinks it's still attached to, that what our actual bodies are, what DNA, what even chakras are. I remember probably in, well, I don't want to, maybe I do, mid 2000s, probably roughly, I think it was, that I didn't feel like when people would discuss chakras, I didn't feel them in that way as these individuated, like, few systems. Felt way more different, way more liquid, way more fluid, completely like as one unified system. And it perhaps wasn't, or some systems of some beings aren't yet functioning that way, because there's still sort of that semi-separation between the different systems within the system, the body system. But the harmonics of what actually is and will be so is far much faster and grander than what is even being expressed right now. And the way that I feel the bodies, especially people that I'm working with, and what I can feel in the energetics, so much bigger and vaster and grander of what is and what the systems are transforming into, the different layers, the multidimensionality, their coding, unique coding, even the structures that we're rebuilding, you want to say the coding, the geometric coding, so much bigger. And I say bigger, it's not about, higher, lower, smaller, bigger, but I'm saying it's more vast than what can be even comprehended. So my suggestion is to remain so fluid and so open, because things are evolving so swiftly, and we really are that counter-rotating, intentional, multidimensionally encoded light frequency, pure tone, pure essence, source creator, energetic being, creator, co-creator, intender, heart permeator, heart motor of our brilliance as divine cosmic beings of light. Anything is possible. So, um, I would like to just briefly, if the Zoom background will cooperate, I know we'll be discussing this so much more. This is just like an intro. But let's see if the Zoom background will cooperate. Just sharing some, let's see. Well, you'll see some of it anyways. some coding, right? And what is this now? Is this coding? Okay. So what does that mean? What's in here? Well, what does it feel like? Is the question. Because what's coming to me, for example, a lot of people ask, well, what is that? Or what do I do with that? Or how do I what's, they'll say, what should I feel? And there's no should of anything. Everything of every moment is, what sensation is it bringing to you? What is it evoking? What is your heart expressing? What perhaps is becoming of a remembrance while you're experiencing, say, something, someone, somewhere, the transmission, known or unknown, whether it's coded, okay. But what are you experiencing? What are you sensing? Is something being sparked of remembrance? Is it opening your heart? Is it you feel something opening to release away? Perhaps something dissolving. Maybe it's reconfiguring. A lot of times, um, and there's so a wide range of perceptions of experiences people have with seeing, seeing the codes, right? They'll have a multitude of experiences, and that's why I actually started creating books out of it. I write code all the time with so many different intentions on different areas of the earth, with different energies, different expressions, different vocalizations from the earth, different, eclipse cycles, planetary lineups. There was so much varied intentionality of the whys of, like, okay, so why is this? What is this? What does this mean? What do I do with that? But the reason why I started to do that was because everyone's experience is unique and different. And sometimes, many times, it will spark your own language, your own pure tone light language, which is really is what coding is your unique soul expressive language. Your light codes turn them on from dormancy or potential partial dormancy, right? Or clear out some of the maybe distortionality. I think I made that word up. Anyways, but it'll clear out some of those things. And a lot of times I've heard anyways with oops. what I that's okay. What I've heard a lot of times when people view my drawings is that they say, wow, that feels really familiar. I've seen that before. But they don't know where, and that's okay. It doesn't matter what you call it. Most of the time I don't give them titles. I don't typically define them. I mean, I might share the intention, but I typically don't do that. And the reason why is because everyone's experience of what they feel and see will be unique to their awareness, what they're ready, to experience, what they want to experience, what they're open to perceive, how they perceive, how they feel, if they feel, what they feel, right? All these layers, layers, layers of potentiality. And if I call this something, right? Now we know humans like to call things, right? And once they do that, they put it in a box. And no judgment to that, right? But we're taking ourselves out of the box. So if I call this, like, say I gave this a title and I'm just completely making something up. Say I call this a blue truck, which it's obviously not. If I call this a blue truck, people are going to say they're having experiences. Oh my gosh, I saw a blue truck in the background. And it limitates the potentiality of what could this actually be for a soul to experience or potentially remember. Could be so vast, could be from so many different when I say timelines, what it could evoke, emit, and remind, that I'm not going to call it a blue truck because you might see a red orange, and I don't even know if that's a thing, but for you it may be, right? So visually, sensorially, a lot of times people will say that, oh, it feels like something familiar. I saw it on an old, an old stone, or I saw it somewhere. I've experienced that, but it was in ancient times. These are ancient codes. These are many of these codes, especially the ones that I write, have been specifically encrypted with very important information. You want to say very pure tone information that cannot be deciphered or decoded or unlocked or even known, received, or found until the energy has been pure enough, meaning that it wouldn't be misutilized in the way that sometimes when people have, in the, you might say past, but parallel other time, say timelines, 1800s, etc., where people have come up with inventions or shared very well-intentioned information or devices or healing devices, etc. And what happens or happened parallelly is that they were taken, misused, and then the person was discredited, right? There's no space for that. So a lot of this, um, these codes have been encrypted, and I can speak for myself and places that timelines that I've been, you want to say been to, these have been encrypted on, building structures, racks, underwater, civilizations, very specifically to have them held safe, and safe not in the word like something is or isn't threatful or whatever, but to keep them pure is the totality of it, because now that it's time to release all of the codes, that also means that releasing anything that was embedded for its sake to come alive and online, completely activated parallel to how all these different crystal cities, underground civilizations are, you want to say, coming online, activating, coming to be known. Artifacts are being released, encoded artifacts, certain frequencies, all these things that were set, or put or buried, specifically or very encrypted for the reason of when the consciousness of humanity and all the rippling for all would be at a certain rate, all shall be revealed. Just now, I mean, in layers. Some of it's coming to be released, some of it's still, harmonizing as it comes to be so. But my point of sharing this with you is also my point of sharing this discussion with you is because there's been many instances. This is a really important, well, they're all important in their own way, but many instances in my this particular lifetime where, I mean, I've had books and books and books of these codes that I've created and said, no, don't share them yet. And it was for that reason. It's like, it's not the right time. What do you want that for? What do you want that for? And really the truthful matter is that anything that is trying to be deciphered or decrypted or decoded will be based and is based now because of divine law harmonics and the override that's going on to override all of the right order, invert, clear out all the distortions, and bring to complete unification, purity, all that is in the unified whole, everything that's ever intentionized or was intentionized for other than that is actually getting the override. But um, so, you know, many different things could be obviously felt, seen, heard, etc., remembered, accessed. A lot of this, these ancient codes have, I mean, we all have the inner access to all information. It's not like only certain people can do that, or, so, like, I mean, there's certain awarenesses that one must have to access, because again, what do you want to do with that? So if somebody does wish to or has been intending to access certain information and it's not coming or arriving, or it's not all the way clear, it may just not be the right moment, right? So the frequency must be in the right rotation for receival, proper receival, and also pure state to comprehend and implement, anchor, and offer whatever that is that one might be desiring. So, say if there is the intention to decode something or understand you might not understand a trigonometry book until it's time to really utilize that information. Um, so there's so much to cover here. Wow. I feel like we barely began to discuss it, but this is going to be like a multi-part discussion. I do want to give a few examples though, because I know many times I put on my channel uh, frequencies, right? Frequencies and intentions, intentionalities that do have multifaceted intentions, such as clearing, harmonizing, unifying, opening, expanding. And there aren't specific instructions for most of them, of course, because however somebody will receive them will be unique and different to them. And what awareness they have, what ability to receive, allow, where they're at on their journey, what they're working on through, why they came to Earth, what their mission is, what layers of awareness they have about that. Everything is always received in the layers and the incremental receival abilities, meaning that um, as and when somebody is able to really receive and anchor, integrate the information is usually when it arrives, not necessarily when somebody's looking for it, right? It's usually when it really is magnetized and the right moment. But I generally, as I do with with the coded drawings, keep them fairly untitled in a way, because what somebody might experience could be vastly different. And it's very important. You'll find I've discussed this many times and will continuously, to be open, to be present, and to be allowing of the current moment, because otherwise you limit things into a small box, thinking it's a box, like you were calling it this, and then it needs to look like that. And it's so much vaster and grander of who we actually are as divine cosmic beings of unlimited potentiality, that it doesn't matter what it looks like, and to unbox the expectations, how something needs to come, how it needs to look, what it needs to wear, how it needs to sound, what it needs to mean, what the what the title needs to have, right? um it's really always in my perception comes back to, well, what does it feel like? Is there resonance? Does the frequency of what you're experiencing, who you've magnetized, what they're saying, what the sound is, what the frequency is, what the transmission is, how does the exchange feel that you're in? Does it feel like an exchange? And by that, I mean, is it a harmonic mutual? And if it's not, it'll feel like that, right? If it's not a mutual exchange, something will feel like that, maybe. Like mutual exchange is flowing, reciprocal, right? And when you're in it, and even right after you're out of it, or even later reflecting on it, do you feel expanded? Do you feel excited? Do you feel illuminated? Do you feel like you have been uh, mutually energized? It's a question. And if not, is that an energy exchange? I don't think so. I don't personally think so. I don't energetically feel so. And that's something to look at, perhaps, if you feel that to be so. I'm always looking at that. If it doesn't feel to be a harmonic mutual exchange, well, it's not, so what's the point? Then there's something, someone, some energy, space in the way that needs to be made to anchor in true alignment, because that's what space is for right now. The expansive potentiality we all came for is so vast. So, gosh, there's so much more I want to discuss. But if I start another topic, well, we'll do another video. We'll do another video. This is so fun. So actually, before we end, I'm going to do an example. I feel that's what I feel like I need to do. Um, Share an example of light language spoken. We did some breath, geometrics, and code. Obviously, you have an example of writing, and there's a multitude of examples of my um, light code writing in all of the books. There's 6 of those alongside with our Zoom cooperative background here. Actually did pretty good, the background. But anyways, so I have an example of that, a brief example of the tone. You obviously have the whole channel to explore that, as well as schedule a session if you feel called for that. But what I would like to do in closing is offer a light language transmission that actually we're talking about intentionality and feeling and sensing and knowing by feel what something actually is versus the alphabetical translated box that we could put it in. I would like to give an example of source energy and divine love, actually. Um, I thought, let me move my, let me move my notebook. Um, source energy and divine love. And why is that? Because that's what we are. That's who we all are. And the point of this transmission is to feel that as we're all here in bodies, in our very uniquely coded bodies and expressions, soul expressions, is when we feel is when we know. And as we feel is how we know. And we know by feel. So as we allow ourselves to open to feel is how we know what's real, right? And that's in all facets. If there's ever a question, the answer is right there. If there's ever a question about anything, the answer is right there, where it feels and how it feels. That's how I know. We'll call this the the untitled version of source energy. The infinite all. And after that, we'll continue another time. Uniai Sokato. Uniai Sokai. Unia So. Unia So. He. I. O. O. Unia Sokato. so kai tai unia sai Otita sokatoi sairoi saito unita sokato sa ai hi o unisa saito ai si to uniai soito ai unita soka tai taya soa ainoa soa koa sai so hi unai saito sai hi ai. I thank everyone for tuning in to our light code transmission today. We are certainly going to dive more into that, as well as give many more examples and understandings to practice our own innate knowingness of frequency transformation through sound, because we all have that ability and inner knowingness to do so, and we all have our own unique encoded language, dialect encoding through our cell structures and DNA. So as we turn on our own lights more brightly in each moment, we get to experience that not just to fully and completely experience love, joy, harmony, and unity with ourselves and all others, but also so we may continue to serve and serve in what feels most true and correct for the reasons why that we're here. So my goal is to offer tools, services to do so, assist in doing so, which include these types of videos and transmissions. So please comment how you've experienced this one or others. It's always nice to know how they're received. And also expand with your perspectives, because that's how we grow and evolve. I feel is to continue to expand, share, and grow with vast, varied perspectives. So, with that, I thank you so very much for tuning in and exchanging with this episode. And we will see you next time. Thanks so much. See ya.